trust your eyes. Go to a big speaker meeting with a lot of sober alcoholics on a Friday or a Saturday night. This was party central. And they're all here drinking coffee and having a cookie, laughing and talking. I trust that. I trust what I see in Alcoholics Anonymous. I trust the changes in people's lives that I see every day. That I trust. And I know it's working. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
Well, hello, friends of Bill W. and other friends. You have landed on Sober Speak. My name is John M. I am an alcoholic, and we are glad you're all here, especially newcomers. Newcomers, that is, both to recovery as a whole and newcomers to this podcast. Sober Speak is a podcast about recovery centered around the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous. My job here on Sober Speak is simple. My job is to provide a platform to the amazing stories of recovery all around us. Consider Sober Speak, if you will, your meeting between meetings. Please remember, we do not speak for AA or any 12-step community. We represent only ourselves. We are here to share our experience, strength, and hope with those who wish to come along for the ride. Take what you want and leave the rest at the curb for the trash man to pick up. Howdy, howdy, from Studio AA deep in the heart of Texas. That thar was the voice of Karen R. that you heard at the beginning of this here episode, and you're going to hear so much more from her in just a moment on this here episode number 266 of Sober Speak. But first things first, this here episode goes out to Joshua and Audrey and Mary Lynn and Laura. And what, you may ask, did Joshua and Audrey and Mary Lynn and Laura do? Well, they went to our website, www.soberspeak.com. They clicked on the little yellow donate tab and they made a contribution. So thank you so much, Joshua and Audrey and Mary Lynn and Laura. This episode is coming right out to Ewans. I, John M., just another bozo on the bus, will indeed be the chairperson for this meeting between meetings, and I am truly honored and privileged to serve all of you listening in. So take a seat around this virtual table, if you will, and let's get started. Remember, no matter who you are or what your past looks like, you are welcome here. It is an open table for all, and we are glad you have joined us today. All right, everybody. So this is, let me think about when this will be released. This is going to be released on November 18th, I believe, 2022. And guess what? We are going to have a big shindig on December 2nd. And when I say a big shindig, I mean really big, because we're going to have Gary K in for a Sober Speak live event. And this event will begin at 6:30 p.m. Central Time in the United States. And it's going to be at the Grace Avenue United Methodist Church in Frisco, Texas. That's 3521 Main Street. So you don't have to remember all that. Just go to our website, www.soberspeak.com, and click on the tab across the top that says Sober Speak Live, and you will get all the information that you desire on that tab. I just like saying tab for some reason. It just, I don't know. You know, sometimes words get stuck. Like I remember when I was a kid, the word wagon got stuck in my head and I couldn't let the word wagon go. And I kept saying it over and over and over. And I kept thinking, am I saying this right? Is this the right word? Wagon, wagon, wagon. And for whatever reason, tab has that same sort of effect on me. Nonetheless, you can go there to our website and you can see the information, the deets, as the kids say nowadays. What else do I need to tell you about that? I think that's it. We are also going to broadcast it. Is that the word you would put it? Yeah. No. Stream it. We are going to stream it live via Zoom, and we will have the Zoom information available on Facebook, on Instagram, and on the website, so you can get the details there, and you can log in and watch us if you like. At least me and Gary K. I probably won't show the rest of the audience just out of respect for anonymity and all that sort of stuff. But you could come in and watch us. What else? Oh, if you are coming to this here event and you need childcare, will you please email me, John, JOHN, at soberspeak.com, and let me know so we can have something prepared for you. All right, so here's something else I've been thinking about lately. If you have anyone within your walk through recovery that has been instrumental, they have been, some people call it an Eskimo in your life, right? The people who brought you in out of the cold, I think is Megan was on this, Megan H. once was on this podcast, and she was talking to me about it. I think they use the term a lot in California. But nonetheless, if you have somebody that is very special to you in sobriety and you want to send me a note about them and let me know about it and have that read on listener feedback, I would love to hear from you. I'm at John, JOHN, at soberspeak.com. And don't write a novel, right? Keep in mind, we just keep it, I don't even know. I don't know a word count or anything like that, but just kind of keep it pithy, as they would say. All right, now on to a little bit of, not a little bit. Oh, I'm wrong there. Now on to our featured guest of the week. And this week, we have a special guest. Well, they're all special, right? But anyway, Karen R. is on the podcast this week, and her episode is called Crossing the River of Denial. And some of you may be familiar with that particular term, crossing the river of denial. And one of the reasons you may be familiar with it is that it is a story in the back of the Big Book that was published in the 4th edition of the Big Book. And we talk about this, and it's by Karen R. And we talk about it a little bit on the front of this episode here, but I think that's kind of cool, right? To have your story in the back of the Big Book. It will live on forever and ever. But nonetheless, Karen lives in Tampa, Florida, and has been sober since February of 1992. She was arrested 5 times before arriving in Alcoholics Anonymous. And she also while she's being arrested, she had a very successful business career. And we talk about that. One of my favorite quotes from the episode is when Karen says, "God never puts 2 people together to help only one." Isn't that cool? God never puts 2 people together to help only one. And she also says, as you heard at the beginning of this, on the audio clip that I played at the beginning of this episode, she says, "Trust your eyes and what you see in Alcoholics Anonymous." I know that you are going to enjoy Karen R. so much, and we will have plenty listener feedback at the end of this here episode. Enjoy. Okay, everybody. So today we're sitting here with a very special guest, Miss Karen R. So Karen R., I am going to. What a beautiful smile you have, by the way. It's infectious. I bet that's not the first time you ever heard that, but it definitely is. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, give your sobriety date if you wish, and then tell people where you are located, please.
Great. Hi, I'm an alcoholic. My name is Karen, and my sobriety date is February 7th, 1992. And I'm currently in Tampa, Florida, recently surviving Hurricane Ian. And of glad to be here. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I know some people in Tampa. I know it didn't hit as hard down there as it did in some other areas, but
Yeah,
I'm glad you're
we
okay.
pray for everyone. Yes.
Yeah. Man,
Thank
what
you.
a horrible thing. Okay, so Karen, I just want to talk a little bit about how I came across you. Paula is one of your friends, I believe, Paula P. Oh, she's putting her little hug arms on right now.
Yeah, one of my besties. I
Yeah,
love her.
I really enjoyed recording her. She's from Champaign, Illinois. And I think y'all have like some little group or something that kind of gets together in Florida. Am I right about that or no?
Actually, we get together every chance we get. There's
Okay.
about 4 of us, and we'll either meet in Champaign or Chicago or my house or Jacksonville or wherever we can, because we just laugh until, we're like little girls again. It's that kind of best friendship. And I didn't realize how much I craved it until I found these women. Magical.
Oh, that's not. And what is how did y'all all meet each other?
Yeah, from speaking and a meeting that another friend, Holly D, and
Yeah.
Paula P are sponsored by Polly P. Try introducing them, in a row. It's impossible. But actually, we have an annual event in Tampa called the Tampa Bay Fall Roundup. And one year, first time I'd ever hosted anybody, about 4 years ago now, I hosted Paula. And then the very next year, I hosted Holly. And they're both sponsored by Polly.
Polly.
So we met that, Polly P and Paula P and Holly D. Oh my goodness gracious! And the love affair started, and it's never ended. So we're very lucky.
They're sweet. Yeah, in fact, I have. I can't remember when exactly, but I have Holly actually scheduled. I think sometime over the next few weeks, something like that. To record her.
She's another one. I mean, I've heard both their stories so many times, and I still laugh and cry at the exact same spots. And it's I never tire of the love that these women have for Alcoholics Anonymous. It's amazing.
Well, another thing that I wanted to mention about you that's a little bit unusual. I've actually never recorded somebody that actually has a story in the back of the book. So when I say back of the book, the 4th edition of Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
That's correct.
And what is the name of that story?
It's called Crossing the River of Denial. So I know a little bit about denial.
That is, and I guess you are proof that it's not impossible. You could actually get in the book with your story.
Absolutely.
When you wrote in, did you think you had? What was your thought? Did you think you had a decent chance?
I didn't even want to do it. So my good friend Linda still takes full credit for my story being in the 4th edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. We were in San Francisco, and this would have had to be 1998. And GSRs were going around to meetings, and they were walking around with a form saying, they're coming out with a 4th edition. If you want to submit your story, here's the form. My friend Linda got our little group together, and she's the one who's going, come on, you guys, come on, let's do this, let's do it. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. And I'm the one going, no. What are the odds? See, my dad was not only an alcoholic, but a gambler. I have been calculating odds since I'm 8 years old, and I didn't think these were good odds. Tens of thousands of stories. What are the odds of us being picked? And she wore us all down. We all submit our story. That just goes to show you don't have to do this with a lot of passion. You just have to do it, because I didn't even want to do it. And so 2 years passed, so don't be impatient. 2 years passed. We do nothing quickly in Alcoholics Anonymous, thank God. And then I got a call from central office in San Francisco, and they told me that General Service in New York wanted me to call them. And I thought, oh, gosh, I'm not doing enough. I'm in trouble. I think I called the principal's office. So I called New York, and they read parts of the story to make sure it was mine. And I was at my office, and they told me it had been selected for the 4th edition. And I got up and closed my office door and burst into tears. My first question was, how many were submitted? And they said 2,500. I thought tens of thousands. Now, I think nowadays, because of social media, it will be a larger number. And so I said, well, how many did you pick? And they said 25. I said, how did you pick them? What were you looking for? And so they were looking for three things. One, you couldn't quit drinking. Two, something happened. And three, your life changed. John, that's all our story. That's each and every one of us. I didn't do anything you didn't do. I just wrote it down. So write it down.
And at that time, did you have to was it on a physical piece of paper and you actually had to send it in?
Absolutely. Yeah. Write it, you typed it, printed it, sent it in. Yep. Because this was 1998. So.
Right. They could do it electronically nowadays, I'm sure.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about, where it started. Did you grow up there in Florida?
No, gosh, no. This is actually the third time I've lived in Tampa. I've got an ex-husband here. Got to leave him somewhere. Tampa's as good a place as any. So something keeps bringing me back to Tampa. But no, I was born in Detroit. Because when people ask me where I'm from, I have to say, well, from when to when? There was 3 grade schools, 2 high schools. Remember, my dad was an alcoholic and a gambler. You move a lot. Mm. So then people say, well, where were you born? Detroit. But I was only there 3 months. I don't remember much about it. And then we just moved. And I always wondered, people would say, well, were you a military brat? And I'd go, no, just a brat. and I said, I think we were running from the law, but usually we were running from the mob or some other nefarious group of people.
So you mentioned your dad, obviously alcoholic. He was a gambler. Was your mom in the picture as well? Did you have brothers and sisters?
And no, I'm an only child. And, I had a great childhood until age 4. And that's where mom decided to leave for a married man. She liked married men. My dad was married when they first got together. And so she left when I was 4 and my dad got custody, and which was very unusual in 1952 for a male parent to get custody of a little girl that's 4. And so my grandmother raised me for a couple of years. My dad knew that she was really too old to take over. And he asked my mom to come back, and she did. And she stayed until I was 16 when she left again for a married man. And I found out then that they had been divorced since I was 4. So, all that pressure of, you're the only thing holding the family together was real. But the amazing part, and this I learned only in Alcoholics Anonymous, John, the gifts of this program that you never expect. Oh, I get chills. So my mantra throughout like 9 years into sobriety was, I was just one little girl. They couldn't even take care of one little girl. The victim, still playing the victim, like Sarah Bernhardt going for the Oscar. It's like unbelievable. And somebody a woman in a meeting said, as long as I define myself by my wounds, I can never let them heal. And as long as I continue to be that one little girl they couldn't even take care of, I could never let that wound heal, because then who would I be? And I was starting to get to know me, and I was starting to really like the woman that I was becoming. And I could finally let that wound heal. What a gift. That could have been hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of therapy. And instead it was just, a couple bucks in the basket, and life-changing, which is what happens. That's the transformation that happens in Alcoholics Anonymous. What a gift.
I love that. As long as I believe.
As long as I define myself.
As long as I define
myself by my wounds, I can never let them heal.
I can never heal. Yeah.
Whew. Oh.
There's going to be some people listening today, wherever they are, that need to hear that. And yeah, I have a similar story. I'm not going to go into that, but, I was raised by a
I'd love
mom.
to hear it.
She was mentally ill. I was an only child. And I kept thinking all the time, who brought me into this world? Why did they do it? Can't they raise me? I started out behind right from the get-go. Yeah. But we can overcome it, right? Yeah. And we can't define ourselves by those wounds, for sure. Yeah. Okay, so all right, so that's kind of, I guess, a little bit of a snapshot of your childhood. I'm assuming at some point there, alcohol and or drugs started to
Yeah.
enter the picture. Talk about that a
Yeah, well, we are talking the 60s and 70s. So I
little.
mean, what else was there but drugs, sex, and rock and roll, and alcohol, which was truly my best friend. And but luckily, through high school, I had a boyfriend who was not a drinker, and that saved me from becoming a teenage alcoholic. I know that. Um, but then in college, I broke up with him, and then it just everything took off, and yeah, but we're such great chameleons. I mean, we have the daytime Karen and the weekend and the nighttime Karen, and they were never the same people, and we're overachievers. And career wise, I was very successful, um, and I didn't know what an alcoholic was. I truly believe that alcoholics were like my dad. And toward the end of his drinking, he would sit at the kitchen table on a Sunday morning drinking water glasses of warm gin. And I used
Mm.
ice cubes, John. I used ice cubes. I wasn't an alcoholic. And, I mean, and I look back now and it's like, I didn't see a problem with any of it. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, I was not an alcoholic. I was a hard partier, and I was so sorry. You people didn't know the difference. And ice cubes kept me out there for a long time. The denial, the level of denial that we can go through, and the rationalize. I would say rationalize. Yeah, it's just two words: rational lies. And I could put those puppies together and go with it. Just go with it. I could rationalize anything, including murder, given enough time to think about it. So, because it was never my fault. I just make up facts.
Right.
Absolutely make it. So I was actually arrested 5 times. 5 times. And did not, and I just had bad luck with cops. I truly believe it's the blondes who catch the breaks, never the brunettes. I believe that to my DNA. Right? And it was never me. And I know today, John, that the absolute most successful active alcoholics are really good victims. Because if you're doing it to me, well, it's not my fault. Well, they did it to me, and I gave it. And I truly believe that as long as it wasn't my fault, then I wasn't the problem.
So, did you ever have some sort of inkling? It's like, so when I came to Alcoholics Anonymous, right? I mean, me and my friends used to we would joke around about it, about being alcoholic, right? Um, and so did have an inkling that I had a problem, an issue. Now, I couldn't tell you I was powerless over alcohol. To me, that was a little, yeah, that was a step too far, right? That was a little extreme. However, did you have some sort of inkling that you were, there was something wrong with this life you were living?
Honestly, no, I didn't. I spent my wedding night in jail, but but that was all his fault. If he had just kept his mouth shut. I'm hiding vodka bottles in shoeboxes in the bedroom because he was drinking too much of my alcohol. So the solution was, well, he's the problem. I'll just hide the vodka. It tells me right now on page 44, that first paragraph of We Agnostics, exactly what an alcoholic is. I didn't know. It says, if when I honestly want to quit and find I cannot quit entirely, or if when I start, I cannot control the amount I take. I love how gentle Bill is. Then
Yeah.
you're probably an alcoholic. So after the divorce, I'm out in Southern California, another promotion, big house to show mom I was fine. And I didn't have to hide the vodka in the shoe boxes anymore. So
So, were there any kids at this point, or is it just you and your husband getting a divorce? Okay.
No, never kids. I was way too selfish, way too self-absorbed.
How many years were you married?
6 years, 7 months, and 28 days.
But
It was a happy marriage.
okay, so you get the
No.
all right, so you get the divorce, you move to Southern California, and it sounds like you're successful in business this whole time, huh?
Always, up until I wasn't. But since my
Mhm.
drinking really took off out there, because I didn't have to set a good example for that alcoholic husband anymore, I decided, nobody told me I had to. I decided I was going to go a week without drinking just to prove to myself that, I didn't have a problem. I was still using ice cubes. And I got to day 6, John, day 6, and it was like close enough. See, I didn't realize that once I honestly wanted to quit and could not quit entirely, that I'm probably an alcoholic. And then all those times I stopped after work for just one, just going to have one, and ended up closing the place. I just thought I'd change my mind. Just decided to stay for last call. I didn't know that once I start, I cannot control the amount I take. So, I mean, if I'd known either one of those facts, it wouldn't have changed a thing. But once I saw it, it's like, oh, wow, there it is. No denying it now. So, but even after my 5th arrest, and I was sentenced to AA in Southern California, I was not an alcoholic. I was a hard partier. And thank God, if you're an alcoholic of my type and you sit in these meetings long enough, you will catch the disease through your ears. And that's what happened for me. Thank God. I caught alcoholism from you. Thank you. Yay.
So you got sentenced to AA through a judge. How many meetings did they make you go to at the time? Do you remember?
It was only one a week. Get your card signed. Then you had to go through some counseling stuff, some other stuff. But
this is more of an outside issue, but to me, it's very interesting. I've heard you talk about it. How nowadays, explain. It went to the Supreme Court about people
in both New York and California. Went to the Supreme Court, and they said, and the Supreme Court ruled with the defendant that AA is a religion because we talk about God. And since you cannot mix church and state, you cannot be sentenced by the courts to go to AA anymore.
Well, that's very interesting. I still see, now I live in Texas. I don't know if it's different, but I still see people coming in and getting their cards signed all the time.
That's not a state mandate. They're in rehab, they're in programs. And there are attorneys who will suggest they go to meetings and sign this paper because it'll look good for the judge. But the state cannot sentence you to AA like they used to.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. But in your case, it turned out pretty good that they, quote, sentenced you to AA, huh?
I never could have gotten here otherwise. My denial was so deep and so strong. And my facts, my self-renowned facts were too tough to overcome. And I was almost too smart to get this thing. So,
do you remember that first meeting? What it was like?
Yeah, please. So it was a woman's meeting. I was all dressed up in my little work suit and went in there because I didn't want them to think I was an alcoholic. Plus, I was hiding. I mean, I had friends whose children had gotten, DUIs, and I needed to hide. So I went to this woman's meeting, and I'll never forget it. I did share and I did cry. I never was an alcoholic, but I said I did have, I needed to get my drinking back in control. And I remember after the meeting, a gal said, the great obsession of every abnormal drinker is to control and enjoy his drinking. And I thought, my God, she's brilliant. I didn't know that was right out of chapter 3.
Right.
But yeah. And then I had to go to this, those stupid meetings, which I always loved the meetings. I just hated all of you. You were so happy and huggy and cheerful and grateful to be an alcoholic. Like, it's like, oh, what? And you say stupid things, John, like it's the first drink that gets you drunk.
Right.
And I knew it was 4 or 5 before I caught a buzz.
Right.
And I'm thinking, you wusses. I bet you never drank warm gin. You say you're an alcoholic. Oh, for God's sake.
So I'm curious about also your professional career. What I mean by that was the drinking affecting your professional career? Because I would imagine, especially back then, being a woman trying to work her way up through the ranks and having an alcoholic issue at the same time is like a double whammy, if you will.
Yeah. Without a doubt. I mean, so I was a partner with an international management consulting firm, and we work with large companies on their human resource strategies. And there were 660 partners worldwide, and 80 were women. So you work really hard to get there, and then you get there, and it's like, wow, is that all there is? You know, which is because it's the journey. It's never the destination. We know that now. Until the very end, because entertaining clients, you know, I mean,
Right.
Socializing, 3 martini lunches. I mean, it was the norm back then, not the, and my tolerance was so high that it actually, I mean, I could drink a lot of people under the table and thought that was a good thing.
Right.
So, yeah. But the career was great. And it wasn't until after I got sober that the alcoholic past caught up with me.
Okay, so take me past that. So you have the first meeting you're going to, and then kind of move past that in terms of.
Okay.
I'm curious how the past caught up with you when you got sober.
Yeah. So I sat in the meetings about 5 months, still doing everything an untreated alcoholic does. You know, drinking, driving on a suspended license, and then, like I say, finally I caught the disease through my ears, and I'm always surprised that people can get sober before the holidays, because I couldn't get sober until after Super Bowl. One more party, then I'll try this thing. And so I went to the party promising not to get drunk. But again, you know, once I start, off to the races, and never made it home, and went to work Monday sick as a dog. And they announced that on Tuesday, we're going to have a team building event. Oh, joy, team building.
Oh, no.
Don't they know I'm sick? Jeez. So I'm in Orange County, and we're all going to go up to the Coliseum on Tuesday for a Kings hockey game. And we get up there, and I'd had 2 beers, but these were hockey cup beers. They were huge cups of beer. I got no relief at all. It was like drinking water. And I'll never forget, my head said, then why bother? I still get a chill. It was as clear as a bell. Then why bother? And in Southern California, there are 1.5 meetings, and we read everything, and we would read chapter 3. And it did talk about the great obsession of every abnormal drinker is to control and enjoy his drinking. And I knew exactly what that meant, because on Super Bowl Sunday, when I enjoyed it, I couldn't control it. The hockey game, when I controlled it, I couldn't enjoy it. And I knew then that I was an alcoholic, just like my dad. Mm-hmm. So I went to a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous the very next night, and took step 1, went home from the meeting, didn't have to open that cupboard with a half-a-gallon jug of vodka up there. That was God doing it, not me, because I tried to not open that cupboard, and I couldn't not open that cupboard. So step 2. And then step 3 was not quite how I planned it. So this was in, late January, early February. And in my career, our busy time is the 4th quarter. And then you send out your big bills, right? It's billable time, like an attorney in that way. And you send out the big bills in the 1st quarter. And I was doing my worst work with my biggest bills. So here I am sober, and clients start firing me. I mean, they're looking at the bills, and they're looking at the quality of the work. And it's like, whoa, this does not compute here. And first, I was fired by the state of Nevada. Then I was fired by Pioneer Electronics. Then I was fired by a Japanese company called Sec America. All within a week. In a week. And the other partners, the first one's going, they're tough. Yeah, we get it. Then the second one's like, whoa, what's going on? Third one is like, because I'm a liability to my partners. I can't collect the big bills. And they gave me 90 days to turn it. Actually, I think it was 60 days to turn it around, which is impossible. That's it's tantamount to being fired. And
right.
And now I'm about 5 months sober, and I'm losing everything. Lost my career, lost that big house, had my heart broken, had a cancer scare. I was robbed. But losing the career, I knew nobody did it to me, John. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the victim. I did it to me. Nobody else. What a gift that was. Lost the house. Orange County went bankrupt. Everybody was losing their houses. They were throwing their keys in the mailbox and just walking away because the houses were so underwater. Had my heart broken. I got into a relationship early. But there was a real gift in that too, because I did have to change my sobriety date. I didn't know pot counted. I swear to God. And I smoked a little bit afterwards, and I threw it away because it makes sense. But when I realized it counted, I had changed my date. And then I was whining about that. And my boyfriend at the time said, Karen, you have the rest of your life to take chips, but you only have today to be honest. Mm. And that was one of those moments in life that just gave me the basis for the future. So, yeah, he did break up with me on the day I lost my career. Could have planned that a little better. But, it was worth the gift that he had given me. And then the cancer scare was just a scare. The robbery was just stuff. But this was all in like the first 6 to 8 months of sobriety. I lost everything. So I had to live in step 3. I had to turn my will and my life over to the care of a power that kept me from opening the cupboard. I had to trust that. And why wouldn't I? Oh my God, why wouldn't I? And I knew that a drink or a drug was not going to fix or change or make any of that better. Wasn't going to bring the career back, the house back, the boyfriend back, nothing. And what a gift that was, knowing that a drink or a drug wasn't going to fix it anymore. And, from that day to this, I haven't had to open a cupboard or a medicine cabinet or anything else, not mine. That's a wow for a woman, an alcoholic of my type. And that's a wow. I'm so grateful. So grateful. Yeah.
When did you start speaking on the circuit, if you will? Because you've done some circuit speaking, am I right? Or have you?
Not really. I mean, I spoke in Thailand. They have a roundup, the 24th annual AA roundup in Pattaya, Thailand, just before the pandemic, just before we got shut down. But that I don't really do circuit.
Well, they should have you out there.
Oh, you're very sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, because you're doing a great job.
Thank you very much. I just love Alcoholics Anonymous. I just absolutely love Alcoholics Anonymous.
I know you do, and I can see it in your face and see it in your spirit. That is so good. Okay, so take me toward, what do you want to highlight over those 30 years of being sober, right? Yeah. And that's what the problem we always run into with guests is like, how do you kind of, just do it in, a few minutes with your 30 years?
Yeah. The one major thing is I still can't trust my head. I've got a brain that's not wired right, and it will always want to kill me. So I will never trust my first thought. I mean, just before my 30th anniversary, it was telling me things like, no, Karen, at 30, I think you're well. There's no well in Alcoholics Anonymous. It's a daily reprieve. And, a reprieve is something that somebody on death row gets. They get a reprieve. That's what I get. So, but still, my head will never tell me the truth. I know that. It'll always say, oh, you weren't that bad. You weren't that bad. Yes, I was. Okay. So not to trust my head. I don't care how much time is not a substitute for sanity. It never will be. Not for this head. And that, John, some days just being sober has to be enough. And it always is. Good days and bad days, just being sober is a good deal. And I will never, ever trade a moment's relief for a lifetime of recovery. Not today. Absolutely not today.
Talk to me a little bit about your, so last night we were having some conversations trying to get some of this technical stuff, settled away. And you got a call from your sponsor, and I could tell from, your voice and the way you talked about your sponsor, how much you love her. And talk to me a little. Yeah, you're like taking a deep breath as you're saying that right now. What's her name? How long have you known her? What has she meant to you?
She's actually a recent gift in my life. Her name is Rena Kay. And she actually sponsors Polly P and a lot of other women that, I just get to stand on the shoulders of giants, literally. And I've only been working with Rena actually less than a year now. And I'd had a sponsor here in Tampa for 13 years, which is as long as I'd lived here. I've always had a sponsor. Once I got a sponsor in early sobriety, but I've never been without a sponsor. Because again, my head lies to me. And, I knew that things weren't, that I wasn't getting what I craved from the old sponsor. And I knew I had to look for something else. It had just gotten to be such a divide in our values around Alcoholics Anonymous.
So that's a real good point.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who get sobriety, whether, they're 5 years sober or 1 year sober or 10 or 20 or 30, whatever the case may be. They kind of get to that point and they say to themselves, maybe I need to move in another direction. Yeah. And coming to that decision, which is a hard one, I'm sure. Was it just through prayer, gut instinct? Can you talk about that?
Well, certainly the feeling that I wasn't growing. So I read the big book with this newcomer up in Connecticut, and we were reading Jim's story. Jim's the guy who owned the car dealership, and now he's working for the guy who owns the car dealership. A little resentment there probably. And he was charismatic, had a great family. He was loved by everyone. But he just had this weed drinking problem. And then, the alcoholics talked to him and he kind of got it. And it said he would be fine for a while, but he failed to expand his spiritual life. And that was like a bucket of cold water in my head. I'm going, oh my God, I'm Jim. I'm working steps with everybody else. But when was the last time I worked steps? I'm not expanding my spiritual life. And I don't want to end up like Jim, doing great for 30 years and then not doing great. So, I talked to Paula. I talked to some other people. And, I need to look. And there's some friends on the West Coast that I adore, but the time difference is a problem. And Rena's here in Florida. And it's about an hour and a half away from me. And we had lunch and I asked her. And all of a sudden, I couldn't wait to talk to my sponsor. I was looking forward to every encounter I had. She not only gives retreats, but she goes to conferences and seminars, and I'm following her. I'm so engaged in a new level with Alcoholics Anonymous again. And now I am getting what I craved, and I didn't even know I needed it. So you've got to be honest, you never just change. So I made an appointment to go to my old sponsor, and I actually made her an Afghan. So I go over there and I give her my Afghan, and I said, we always thank them because this was 13 years of time and love, and so after I thanked her and I said, I just need to go in a little different. And her first words were, I was expecting this. Sponsors always know. And so it was a clean break. It was a loving break. And she got a nice Afghan out of the deal. So that was good. But I do love my new sponsor.
So how did you find Rena?
She does a step series called the Lions Step Study. And I had done that last January. And, I loved her message. I loved everything about her. And finally, after talking to a few other people, I asked her if she'd have lunch, and I drove down there, and we just clicked, and I fell in love, absolutely fell in love. And we speak every week. We have a set time, and I believe in that. I need discipline. And she's busy, so we have a set time. I call every Friday at 11:30, and if it doesn't work out, we reschedule. But and I'm getting everything I need. She gives me direction and guidance and steps. And then we did a conference down in about an hour from here to play in a woman's the Lion Step series for the first time in person that it's ever been done, and she was leading that, and it was magical, just magical. So I'm very blessed. Cool. Yeah, very blessed. Yeah. I am.
So I want you to take me back. I've heard you tell a story before, and I don't know all the details, about a woman who heard you telling your story, and she knew it had something to do with the story in the back of the big book. Can you take me through
Oh,
that?
I think you're talking about Kimberly. I was in San Francisco and I was getting ready to move. Now, all of a sudden, my firm wants me to actually open an office for them in Las Vegas. I go from being fired to having the confidence and the trust of opening an office in Las Vegas, which is great AA. But it's not anywhere you want to live if you have any issues at all of any kind. So I'm getting ready to leave, and I'm leaving my 9:30 meeting on Saturday mornings, and this gal walks up who I didn't even know. And she asked me to have coffee, so I said, sure. So this is actually her story. So here's Kimberly. She's 26. She's cute. She's an attorney. Has a little drinking problem, starting to cause some problems in her life. But, you're 26. You're cute. You're an attorney. You got plenty of time. Well, it was not getting worse. It was not getting better. So she decided to go to one of those meetings. And the meeting is still there, 5:30 Friday nights in the Marina Dock in San Francisco. Great little women's meeting. But like me, hated the meeting. All these women were so huggy and happy, and she's got problems, and what's wrong with them? And hated the meeting. So she decided on the way home, she'd just pick up one of those books, and she takes it home and she opens it. And of course, the beginning of Bill's story with the doggerel on the tombstone. It's like, oh, who wrote this crap? So she hated the book, closed the book, left it on her coffee table. A couple weeks, still walking around it. And she thought, let me just open it. So she just picked up the book from her coffee table and opened it. And happened to open to a story called Crossing the River of Denial. And she said, I read that story and I knew to my toes that I was an alcoholic. I could relate to everything in that story. So she got a sponsor. She worked the steps. She came up on a year. And you know how to year, we get that delusion of wellness where we think we're doing it and I'm fine if I can go a year without it. So she made a decision. She was either going to go to the young person's speaker meeting on Union and Steiner, or that if there was a parking spot. If not, she was going to go to the bar. And I got to tell you, in San Francisco, you do make life-altering choices based on parking spots. You have to, because there are none. So she pulls up in front of the church. Right in front, there's a parking spot. So she goes into the church. She sits in the back with her arms crossed. It's like, rah, 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 rah. And then all of a sudden, the woman that was speaking that night, she starts to hear the story that she had read a year before coming out of this woman's mouth. I was the speaker that night. What are the odds? I mean, you can't make that up. Mm-hmm. And the little hairs stand up. Yeah. And she knew that she was in the right place. She's in Atlanta now, still successful and still sober.
How cool.
And I love that story.
Yeah. How cool.
Yeah.
So just to kind of wrap us up here, like you're there's a lot of people listening to you. And if you were to kind of share some experience, strength, and hope, and I'm really kind of thinking about those out there right now who think, I'm one of those that's constitutionally incapable of being honest with myself. Man, maybe it can work for Karen, maybe it can work for John M., but it can't work for me. Yeah. So if you could just kind of share a little experience, strength, and hope about Alcoholics Anonymous, what it's done for you, and maybe talk to those people.
Yeah, thank you. And to all of you who think that, to all of you who think, oh, I don't want to bother my sponsor. Oh, they're busy. Oh, I'm not worthy. Remember, God never puts two people together to only help one of them. Make the call. Never forget that we have a disease that is stronger than a mother's love for her children. That will always take us out. And you can't do it for them. You got to do it for you, and they will benefit. But never forget the power of this disease. And I think the final thing I would leave is, again, you still can't tell me anything, right? But trust your eyes. Go to a big speaker meeting with a lot of sober alcoholics on a Friday or a Saturday night. This was party central. And they're all here drinking coffee and having a cookie. laughing and talking. I trust that. I trust what I see in Alcoholics Anonymous. I trust the changes in people's lives that I see every day. That I trust, and I know it's working. And for that, I'm eternally grateful.
And we are eternally grateful that you have come on here, shared your story, Karen R. I absolutely love it. I'm so glad that Paula P. Introduced us to each other.
Me too,
God bless
John.
you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And if you're ever out here in the Dallas area, please do let me know. Like, especially, and you're saying
it goes
if you're
both
ever
ways.
Tampa, the same way. I'm with you.
We're between hurricanes now. You can come. So.
You got it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Well, I always close it out with 164 from the Big Book.
Oh, yes.
Page 164.
Yes.
And if I can find it here real quick, it says, abandon yourself to God as you understand God. Admit your faults to Him and to your fellows. Clear away the wreckage of your past. Give freely of what you find. And join us. We shall be with you in the fellowship of the Spirit, and you will surely meet some of us, like me and Karen R., as you trudge the road of happy destiny. May God bless you and keep you until then. Karen, I know we had a little bit of an issue kind of getting started on the technical piece of this, but I'm so glad we stuck with it.
Yeah.
And
thank you so much. Thank you, John. I really had fun.
One more time, thank you so much, Karen R. For those of you listening out there who think a friend or a family member may be able to benefit from that particular episode, if you would please pause your device and click that little share button and pass it on over to that friend or family member. It may be just what they need today. Now, on to a little listener feedback. So the pause of my voice there, for whatever reason, I'm just, these little things come to my brain as I'm recording. And I was thinking to myself, you know what would be cool so I started to like sing a song and like a listener feedback song. And then I thought, and this all happened like within a nanosecond, by the way, but I didn't have a listener feedback song in my head. So so then I started thinking, well, maybe we should get some listener feedback music. And then I thought, well, what would that music be? And it'd have to be real short and to the point and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, that was going on in my head. But now on to a little bit of listener feedback. Gilbert writes in and he says, hey, John, I just wanted to comment on a couple of episodes I listened to recently. Brian P., number 258, and Joe Muck, number 262. I love it when people give episode numbers. That is very cool. He said, I was very moved by Brian P.'s talk. It was gripping, deeply personal, and such an emotional ride that really tugged at the heartstrings. I was hanging on every word. A great episode. And Joe Muck's episode was a masterclass on AA. Like you say, John, chock full o' nuts. I fully intend to listen to it again, this time with a notepad and a pen to jot down all those cool nuggets of information he rattled off. I also got a kick out of how much fun you had with my... Oh, yes, I forgot how much fun you had with my name during the listener feedback portion. I'm in the middle of the current episode of Mark Houston and really enjoying his talk as well. I'm loving his podcast more and more as it becomes a staple. Loving this podcast more and more as it becomes a staple in my Spotify rotation. As usual, keep up the good work, Gilbert, not Wilbur R. So, for those of you, I think this was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, something like this, but Gilbert had written in and, oh God, I went off on some tangent about Wilbur and Mr. Ed. My thought was I'd lost Gilbert forever once he listens to this. So, Gilbert, thank you so much for not taking us out of your Spotify rotation or being angry with me. Anyway, Gilbert, not Wilbur. Wilbur, thank you very much. Jennifer writes in, she says, "Hi, John. I just finished listening to this episode. Definitely. Okay. So she's talking about, the title of the subject line was one of Charlie P's episodes, and I forgot about, I don't know which episode it was. But anyway, she said, I just finished listening to this episode, the one with Charlie P. Definitely keeping Charlie and Katie in my prayers. I really appreciated Charlie's share about making amends to Katie and how he and Katie keep their marriage healthy by the open communication and practicing the principles in his daily life. Jennifer says, have you ever thought about having them on together to share their practicing and the principles in their relationship? I don't think you've done that. If so, I apologize. Please send me the episode number. I know now might be the best time, but perhaps in the future. I am 5+ years sober, and I'm blessed to have married a beautiful man with 29+ years sobriety and 6 months. We really try to keep the principles of our relation. We really try to keep the principles in our relationship without getting into each other's program. But it can be a challenge, especially for, quote, this bozo on the bus. Please feel free to pass on my information to Charlie and Katie, as I would love to reach out to them. Thank you for all you do, Jennifer L. Cary, North Carolina. Well, Cary, I started not to even read this. I know that Katie and Charlie are going through a difficult time right now, and you're right, it's not the best time. I'll keep you posted with what I know when I know, and but that's a great suggestion. And finally, Brian writes in, and Brian says, good sober Sunday to you, John. Well, good sober Sunday back at you, Brian. He says, I found this podcast when I was doing research for, quote, recovery. Doing a search for, quote, recovery. I tried to listen to it on my ride into work, which is just an hour from where I live. After my morning prayer, it's a great way to start my day. I retired from the Navy in 2009 and I moved to Maine. 3 months later, I found myself back in the halls after going back out because I never worked a program. I always thought my problems were the fault of everything and everyone else. I had a, quote, intervention, per se, when my girlfriend told me that I had a serious problem, and something just clicked, which I truly believe it was God speaking through her. Good for your girlfriend. He said, I had looked in the mirror, having only the clothes on my back, a retirement check, and 1 foot in the grave. I finally realized that I need to change. I already took the first step and admitted I was powerless and my life was unmanageable. On July 6, 2009, I walked back into the halls, got a home group, a job, and a sponsor. I go to several meetings a week now, 1 in person and 2 online. I work on, quote, me, unquote, every day, and I do my best to stay out of others' crap. And then this is a quote from the big book. He says, acceptance is the answer to all my problems, unquote. I am truly blessed and grateful today. I am only alive today because of the 2 men that started this program, the people in it, God, and doing the work. As long as I keep doing what's asked of me, I get to be present today. Thank you, John, for letting me be a member of your group, and I will do my best to participate. You can't get it if you don't give it. Brian. Well, thank you for being in the super secret Facebook group, is what he was talking about. The honor is all hours. And if you're not in that group and you would like to be there, just go to Facebook and look up Sober Speak Secret Group and ask for admission into the group, and we will let you on in. All right, everybody, that does it for Uno Mas Semana of the Sober Speak podcast. So thank you for joining us. May God bless you and keep you until then. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. I take this 1 week at a time. Hope to be back next week. God bless.